Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Fully Alive podcast. My name is Medina Gross, and I help high-performing executives and professionals who are sick and tired of being sick and tired finally feel their best so that they can be their best. I specialize in getting to the root causes of your conflicts and challenges so that the work that you do and the shifts that you experience are permanent. This is not your typical podcast episode. This is an instructional video on how to develop a practice of self-awareness and the release process necessary to get to self-acceptance. If you're still in the learning phase of your journey, this is the kind of video I want you to take in more than once because you're not going to catch it all in one listen. That being said, knowing this information will not change your experience. Your experience will not shift unless and until you decide that you want more for you. And that is what this video is all about. These are the specific habits necessary to address the root causes of your conflicts and challenges. Like this video and subscribe now so that you get the notifications of the follow-up videos that I refer to and promise at the end. So let's go back to where we are today. What is that root cause? We all live in a state of chronic stress, which means that you don't feel safe in your own body and your own experiences. You feel like you must constantly defend yourself against people and situations beyond your control. This is especially true at this time in history. Tensions have been building for decades, and now everyone is feeling the conflict. The more divided we are, the more conflict and chaos we will experience. Now, this is true for organizations of all sizes, from our national governments, to our corporations, to our communities, to our families, and even our own individual experience. It's easy these days to see divisions among us. But have you realized that in order to see yourself as separate from someone else, you have to either see yourself as a victim to them or as dominating them? So even if you become the eventual winner, that dominator, you first have to see yourself as a victim in order to justify the fighting. So do you see yourself as a victim? Now, this is a trick question. The real question is, do you realize how often you see yourself as a victim? Every time you find yourself complaining about something, you're seeing yourself as a victim. Every time you find yourself judging others, you're seeing yourself as a victim. Every time you blame others, you're seeing yourself as a victim. Every time you get irritated about something, you're seeing yourself as a victim. If you haven't already listened to New Rules for a New Game, Parts 1 and 2, I highly encourage you to do. In these videos, I describe the energy leadership model. This is a continuum of perceptions, experiences, and beliefs that define how we interpret our experiences. If you're curious to learn more about what your default tendencies are, I encourage you to reach out to me to experience the Energy Leadership Index. It's hard to see ourselves honestly because we can't see ourselves separate from our own belief system. But with this data, you'll get that clarity on how your perceptions are shaping your experiences and will offer you other possibilities. The fact is, most people operate persistently in the victim mindset, especially as a fighter. This is someone in a state of chronic stress that feels like the pressures of life are closing in on them. Their main priority is to survive, and to the fighter, survival requires all enemies to be defeated. These are the people who are always right, who always have something to complain about, who are always pointing the finger and blaming others. These are the people that will keep changing the rules so that others can't win. I think it's fair to say that we all operate in victim mode, some more than others, but we all share these default tendencies because it's what we've been taught. And our senses confirm it. It feels like the root causes of our pain and suffering lie outside of our control. And these external forces feel persistently chaotic and overwhelming. Over time, you begin to believe that the only options you have to survive are to give up or to fight back. And since you are not a quitter, you will fight on as best as you can. And that is how you become sick and tired of being sick and tired. If you continue to buy into the story that your life, your energy, your experience is caused by what is happening around you, you will always feel unsafe and you will continue to operate from a state of chronic stress. It cannot be any other way. So if this root cause isn't external, it must be internal. Now hold on. This is where it would be easy to interpret this as victim blaming. I get it. This is the part that has held me back from my growth and healing journey for way too long, and I don't want it to hold you back. The internal root cause is that you don't feel safe in your own body and in your own experiences. This is what keeps you in survival mode. I'm here today to show you how you can feel safe in your own body. Because when you feel safe in your own body, you're confident, you're adaptable and resilient. You're empathetic, and you see the best in everyone and everything. When you feel safe in your own body, you experience clarity of thought. Ideas convert quickly and easily into actions that feel easy and even fun. When you feel safe in your own body, you feel safe to other people. And when you feel safe in your own body, you set and maintain boundaries with love and without guilt. So what does it take to feel safe in our own bodies and in our own experiences? I think there are two primary paths. The first path is coming to know ourselves. The second path is retraining our nervous system. So when we're talking about coming to know ourselves, what I'm talking about is developing those habits of self-awareness, becoming aware of how often and how many ways we neglect and abandon ourselves. It also, coming to know ourselves also means learning to love and accept all of ourselves, not just the parts that other people have liked and have approved of. Coming to know ourselves means coming to know who we really are, what is purposeful and meaningful to us. And finally, when we come to know ourselves, we begin to audaciously create a life that is fulfilling and fun. So that's one route. The other route is retraining the nervous system so that it is operating optimally. And when our nervous system is operating optimally, our bodies and our minds can perform at their best. We're eliminating that internal resistance from our nervous system without taking care of the body in this way. It's like driving around with the safety brake on, and this friction can actually keep us in that state of chronic stress. So I offer two modalities for resetting the nervous system. One is first by a meditation process known as open focus. I have several of these videos on this channel for you to explore and use on your own. And if you'd like practice consistently with others, I invite you to join the Zesty Life Studio. We meet up to 3 times a week to practice, and the link will be in the description. I also offer neurofeedback services. This is by far the easiest and the most effective strategy I have experienced. There is nothing to do or to think about. There's no storytelling. There's no emotional roller coaster. The nervous system learns to operate optimally, which leads to improvements in physical, mental, and emotional realms. So those are the two paths. Now let's come back to the first path of coming to know ourselves. This begins with self-awareness. We all have an ego. It is our defense mechanism. We also have a true self. This is our divine DNA. This is the part of us that is eternal. This is the part of us that knows and has access to all of the resources that we would ever need. Remember a few minutes ago when I mentioned that the more we experience division and separation, the more conflict and chaos we experience, even as individuals? Let me say straight away that we're not trying to kill off, push away, or ignore our ego. This is that seed of separation that makes it sound reasonable that we're also separate from one another. Rather, I recommend that we begin to listen to and acknowledge the stories our ego is operating. The ego speaks to us through our inner dialogue. And as we begin to listen to ourselves, we begin to discover the patterns of belief and behaviors that run our lives. We begin to realize that the stories that we are living by may no longer be necessary. We also begin to experience respect and love for how resilient we've been. And when we listen to ourselves in this way, we begin to understand everything through the lens of compassion. This allows us to accept those painful parts of ourselves and to let go of the emotional energy that holds this pain in place. This is how we begin to feel whole. When we finally acknowledge, experience, and release this emotional energy, we can then establish new beliefs and habits that align with our true self. So, self-awareness lesson number 1, we're not killing off the ego. We are acknowledging, we are embracing, and we are releasing the painful energy that we've been holding on to. Which leads me now to the second important aspect of self-awareness. That is, you are not the ego. You are not the inner dialogue. You are not the stories or experiences that you tell yourself. You are the one who observes it all. You are an expression of the divine having a unique experience that only you can have. And this is why you're here. So what does this mean? It means that you can choose to be the experiencer in the mix with all the sensory and emotional experiences, or you can choose to be the observer, watching your internal experience as if it were someone else. And the third recommendation for getting started with self-awareness is a willingness to stay with yourself, especially when the emotions are most uncomfortable, and to give yourself the grace and compassion necessary to accept and release anything that is no longer serving you. So the first part of coming to know ourselves is to develop a practice of self-awareness, tuning into that inner dialogue to discover those patterns of beliefs and behaviors that shape your experience. We're not killing off the ego or any other part of ourselves. We're actually bringing ourselves together into wholeness. You are not your stories or your experience. You are the one who observes it all. This gives you the choice to either be the experiencer or the observer at any time. And thirdly, be willing to give yourself grace and compassion. When you first start listening to yourself, you might be surprised how hard you are on yourself, and you may not want to listen. So start small and be kind to yourself. Now, once you start to practice self-awareness, you're going to discover those beliefs and habits that you are no longer willing to live with. When you feel safe enough to acknowledge and experience this pain, you will let this emotional energy move through you. Here's how that's going to happen. First of all, allow yourself to experience the feeling without resistance. Simply observe what you're experiencing without the need to change it in any way. Just observe, see what is there. Notice any judgment you have for yourself, again, without resistance. If you feel yourself getting twisted up over something, the first thing you say is, oh my goodness, I'm twisted up about it. Now, the next thing you might say, I might hear yourself say is you're going to have all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't be twisted up about this. You're judging yourself, right? You're trying to change and shape your experience. I'm saying, let that go. We're simply observing. What is it? What is the emotional? What is the experience that is coming up for you? What is it that you're having internally? And notice any judgment that you have for yourself and just let it go. You do not have to act on it in any way. Just observe it. Once the emotional energy has been activated, let go of the story and just feel the energy of that emotion. This is very important. Drop the story and observe the emotional experience in your body. Is this energy moving? Is it rigid? What does this energy want to do? Observe the energy. Whenever you've noticed that you've gone back to the story, just let it go again. It's okay. This is part of the process. You're going to bring up a story, you're going to feel it. And what we are accustomed to doing is keeping up with that story so that we keep the emotions heightened. What we want to do here is bring up the story just enough to bring up those emotions and then just be with the emotions. Because if we stay in our story, we're just rehearsing the story. We're rehearsing and cementing in this emotional energy. When we let go of the story and we just pay attention to the emotional energy and experience, this energy will move through you. It's what it's designed to do. You will know that the release is complete when you can no longer activate the same emotions with the same old story. This is that level of acceptance when you no longer have a strong feeling about it. It just is. Now, once you establish these habits of self awareness and the release process, you'll be able to do this on the go. Until then, though, I encourage you to partner up with someone to be with you through this experience. I have found that simply having someone witness the release makes it easier to stay with the pain longer and to go deeper. Hypnotherapy is also very effective at releasing big, painful emotions. I'll never forget my first hypnotherapy experience, where I experienced wave after wave of grief that would have felt incredibly overwhelming if I were to do this alone. But with the therapist's support, I was able to stay with the process, releasing these waves of grief that I'd been carrying around and living with my entire life. This experience is the one where I finally began to believe that healing was possible for me. It was the first time I separated the story from the experience and just let that energy go. So you might be asking yourself, where do you start? I would suggest start by simply observing yourself without the need to change anything. Just watch what you do. Watch what you say to yourself when the alarm goes off in the morning, or when you first wake up, open your eyes and you realize it's a new day. What's the first thing that you say to yourself about the day ahead? As you begin to see patterns of beliefs and behaviors, simply just tune into that emotional experience and let this emotional energy move through you. Again, you'll know that you've released all the energy when that same story no longer triggers that same emotional response. I'm here to support you. I encourage you to join the Zesty Life Studio for weekly guided practice. Let us hold the space for you to release the bigger energies that you don't feel ready to release on your own. And if you suspect that you would benefit from the support of a hypnotherapy session, use the link in the description to book a call today. The root cause of your pain and suffering is that you're carrying around so much pain and suffering. When you come to know and love yourself, and when your nervous system is happy and operating optimally, you will be confident, adaptable, and resilient. You will be empathetic, and you will see the best in everything and everyone. You will experience clarity of thought, and ideas that come to you will convert easily into actions that actually feel fun. When you feel safe in your own body, you feel safe to others. And when you know yourself, have that confidence, you begin to create a life that is fulfilling and fun without effort. Look for upcoming videos where I will walk you through the self-awareness and release practice for common survival strategies. These examples will bring clarity to the application of these principles. I'll also be adding videos to help you retrain your energy toward creating your ideal experiences. So stay tuned. Again, like the video so that you can come back to this, subscribe to this channel so that you get notifications of these upcoming videos. And as we close, I want you to congratulate yourself, acknowledge yourself for making this commitment to yourself. And then listen to this again. No one can do this for you, and you can't do this alone. I'm here to walk with you. Thanks for listening.